let's move on to the problem that the Houston Texans have with Deshaun Watson. It's easy to talk about Watson wanting out. It's not so easy talking about where he goes next, Chris. We had the tweet earlier where he surely is sending a message to the Texans and his supporters out there, and there are many supporters. I feel bad for the Texans at this point. The average Deshaun Watson fan wants him the hell out of there. So, Chris, let's figure out where he may go. And I said yesterday, it's easier to figure out the teams that shouldn't want him than to figure out the teams that should want him, because there's a handful of teams that shouldn't. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Packers for a couple of years.
Yeah.
A year or two from now, they may feel differently. The
Seahawks, probably.
The
Yeah,
Bengals,
Seahawks.
the
Yeah.
Seahawks.
Right.
And the Chargers.
Right. Maybe even I'll even say you said the Ravens, right? Maybe
the Ravens,
the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to throw them in there with the current. We know Deshaun Watson's better, but I still think they got a really good thing, and they're not going to look to upgrade or ruin that little scenario there. And did you say the Cleveland Browns? That's another one.
I started to. I'm not sure.
I know.
I'm not sure.
I feel like they've made it now. Baker's the guy. He proved that to me, at least, to where they shouldn't be looking to sell the farm just to make that trade and ruin something they're building there.
But what if you could send? Look, we're just going to spitball here.
Yeah.
Let's just have some fun.
Right.
We're not trying to rain on the parade in Cleveland. But if you're a Browns fan, you got to ask yourself this question. If you're a Texans fan, you got to ask yourself this question. Would you want Baker Mayfield? Do you bring Baker Mayfield back to Texas? There's an appeal to bringing Baker Mayfield back to Texas. There's an appeal to Baker Mayfield playing on the Houston Texans. And if that's where he would want to be, if he would embrace it, right? And Deshaun Watson playing for the Cleveland Browns, I just, that they could have had him. That was the pick. They traded the pick to the Texans.
Right.
The Deshaun Watson pick. They consciously chose more draft picks over Deshaun Watson. It's something to think about. I think they are in a very narrow middle ground, right, where there's going to be a lot of teams that clearly should be. There's going to be a handful of teams that clearly shouldn't be, and I think the Browns would kind of be in that middle where it could go either way.
Yeah, I hear that. I think that's the pack they're in. I would hope they're thinking, hey, Baker's our guy. We've done a lot of good things here. Let's not have to trade away 3 first-round picks as we're just on the cusp of really completing our team and doing that. That's why I would not like to see them do that, at least at this point. They're close. We like what they're building there. But I think the point of what we're saying here and everything like that is, if it gets to this point and it seems like it's going this way, it's going to be the most unbelievable market and trade conversation ever around one player. We've never had a quarterback in their prime right now, about to reach their prime, maybe be available via trade. That's where it's amazing. And yeah, we mentioned the teams, that we know don't want them. The teams that have truly great quarterbacks, and they're going, okay, we're sold. Or rookie great quarterbacks that are Burrow, Herbert, like you're talking about. Now, the other aspect of the conversation, I think we're in agreement here, we haven't really discussed this, is I don't think the crap teams of football are going to be in this conversation either. One, I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to go like, oh, yeah, I'll go to the Jets or the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. That's the first reason. The second thing is, why would those teams want to trade for Deshaun Watson? So they can be what? The Houston Texans in 4-12 with Deshaun Watson? They have so many holes to fill. To trade for him, I just go, well, then you're the same crappy team, except you got a cooler quarterback. And you're not going to be that much better. You might win 1 or 2 more games. You won't be 2-14, or you'll be 4-12. Whoop-de-freaking do. Now, the real story is all the other teams we don't mention, and that's where
hang on a second.
Right.
Hang on a second.
Kyler Murray's another team. They don't need them there.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You mentioned the Jaguars. I have been fascinated by the possibility of the Jaguars offering the Trevor Lawrence pick for Deshaun Watson, and what more would have to flow in either direction. Because that's what it is.
That could happen, right.
We're trading the first overall pick for Deshaun Watson. You're trading Trevor Lawrence for Deshaun Watson because that's who Houston would take, obviously. I don't know that Watson – I hadn't thought of it from the perspective of would Watson want to play for the Jaguars, but he's got a lot more control over that than Trevor Lawrence has over it because of the no-trade clause. He can say, I don't want to play for the Jaguars. Not that the Texans would want to keep him in the division. Jaguars, Titans, Colts, and obviously the Colts are a team that should be in the front of the line.
Right.
Do you really want to do it? Do you really want to trade a quarterback in the division? Philadelphia did it with Donovan McNabb. That was a Trojan horse. the Patriots did it with Drew Bledsoe. That was not quite a Trojan horse, but they were ready to move on from Bledsoe, and they got a first-round pick, so who cares if he stays in the division? But, in the division is going to be a tough sell. I would not trade him to the Colts, but, if the Colts are one of a handful of teams that Deshaun Watson is willing to play for, those are the participants at the auction at that point.
Right.
Colts, Dolphins, and then who else do we think? Because we know the Dolphins. We keep hearing the Dolphins. Colts, Dolphins, and who else would you put on that list of the teams that Deshaun Watson would say, yes, I'll play them?
Well, yeah, to me, that's going to be the thing. That's what I think is so cool about this whole thing. I think it's going to be the teams that are kind of good and feel like they're in a good place as a total roster that are going to look to trade for him and go, wait, we're kind of good. We got pretty good depth. I like where our roster's at. The next 2 or 3 first-round picks aren't going to make or break our football team. We're missing the quarterback right now. So, yeah, you mentioned 2 of them. I mean, we were talking about teams. I mean, the Saints. The Saints. Drew Brees retired. He's gonna go. He'll be like, oh, sure, I'll go play for Sean Payton. I would think that's a team that would jump out to him. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers. We don't know what happens with Big Ben. I'm just throwing out all possible teams right now that I think would make sense. The Las Vegas Raiders. John Gruden, Derek Carr. I mean, what them New England Patriots.
Wait. You can't trade Derek Carr to the Texans. You can't. You can't do it. You can't. The team that destroyed his brother David with no blocking whatsoever. That was one of the reasons they didn't draft him in 2014.
Right.
Because their mother is the same person. Forget about assessing the quarterback. He's David Carr's brother, so we can't draft him. That was one of the reasons why they didn't when he was a top prospect.
Yeah, no, I know. You're right. So that might be a tough one that's out of the loop there. But I think the point is of what we're making when you're talking about this and the teams that should at least think about it, it's a long list. I mean, Minnesota, San Francisco, the Carolina Panthers, Detroit, Atlanta, depending on what they do with Matt Ryan. I just think there's a lot of teams there that are very, good set up as far as successful type rosters or have the potential there. And that's where I think this could be really unbelievable as far as the trade market and the conversation around Deshaun Watson.
I think you could take the Falcons off the list simply because of their cap situation, and they'd be taking a hit if they move Matt Ryan, and then on top of it, you have to bring in the Deshaun Watson contract. But you know what? $10.54 million is his salary this year. Next year, it's $35 million, which would speak to an extension at that point. But for this year, with the cap dropping to $180, that's the number that I keep hearing. $10.5 million, not a bad number for Deshaun Watson. And obviously the Texans would take a cap hit, but it's in the low 20 millions to move him if that's what they end up doing. We've seen the Steelers take a cap hit in that magnitude to move Antonio Brown, and they just got a 3rd-round pick and a 5th-round pick back for him or something like that. So
right.
And again, obviously we have to get to the point where the Texans are willing to do it, but I think we could remove the Falcons just because of the cap realities. But it's really not a bad contract to take on. And some of the teams you mentioned really are intriguing to me. And I want to start with the Saints. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Sean Payton could have drafted him.
Yeah.
Sean Payton was going to take Patrick Mahomes if Mahomes had made it past the 10 spot. They took Marshawn Lattimore with the 11th selection. Deshaun Watson was left on the board. I'm not sure that Sean Payton's going to break the draft pick bank to get Deshaun Watson. And that's the other side of this. You need to send him to a team that has an established nucleus of great players because you're going to be giving up stuff to get him.
Right.
And the more that you give up, the harder it's going to be for Deshaun Watson to have a competitive team. There's a sweet spot there that could be non-existent.
Right.
Where the Texans get fair value, but the new team hasn't mortgaged its future to the point where it's not going to matter to have Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, that is the sweet spot, and I think that's why I tend to think it's going to be the teams that are more in the mix of the playoff conversation or in the playoffs rather than the teams that are in the gutter and down there in the draft for the Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields sweepstakes. Because of all those reasons you just talked about. One. Yeah, we don't want a team to get ruined by the trade. Deshaun Watson's not going to sign off on, oh, great, you're trading me to a team that's not good, and now they're giving all their draft picks away so we can continue to not be good. I'm already in that situation. I would like to not be in that. That's where I look at teams like the Saints, the Patriots, and the Miami Dolphins, even though they're young. And yes, there is there's a lot of things that are set up there. They did a great job last year. Offensive line's in a good spot. Defensive line's in a damn good spot. Maybe could use another pass rusher. Linebackers, secondary. Yeah, they need a receiver and all that. But I do think they're still one of those teams in that conversation. Of course, have a lot of draft picks to play around with, and maybe even trade Tua, to a Houston Texans if they wanted him or wanted to make this trade happen.
What do you think about the Broncos as a possible candidate? Deshaun Watson.
They're one of the teams I threw out there because Drew Lock's certainly on the fence. It seems like he's going to be the starting quarterback there, but I don't think they can be sold yet. Like, oh, he is the guy. We talked about it last week, right? Denver's one of those places where, you got Drew Lock, and I would have a really good, solid backup behind him in case we see one of those Drew Lock spurts that we saw this year where he's just too loose with the ball and throwing interceptions. Vic Fangio doesn't want to go down the toilet bowl with that. So, Watson there.
Would he want it? Would he want it, though?
I think he would.
With Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in that same division.
Well, I think when he looks at those damn receivers on that team and then maybe looks at the way the offensive line played this year, he might okay, I could deal with this. I want out of Houston. Denver's not perfect, but there's some things set up as far as the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball to where there's potential for them to be a player. I think he would sign off on that. What do you think?
I think it would be a tough sell because you're walking into a division that has the potential to be very, very challenging for years to come. And, yeah, it would be great to see Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes against each other twice per year, but you're going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting to get the Broncos to the point where they can compete, and you're giving up, 2-3 first-round picks on the way in to get Deshaun Watson. It's going to hamper their ability to be competitive. There was and I get odds from these offshore gambling companies all the time, and I'll look at them and just delete the email because I'm surprised they're still in business, because now that gambling is legalized in more and more American states, they're clamping down on the illegal offshore gambling. But one of the lists of odds that we received back in August, September timeframe was the odds of who the Patriots quarterback would be week 1 of the 2021 season, and the favorite was Deshaun Watson. It took a long way to get to my point. What do you think about Deshaun Watson as the possibility of the next quarterback in New England, the next franchise quarterback for that team?
I think that he would be Bill and Josh McDaniels type of guy if Josh is there and not the Eagles head coach. I do. I think he's going to have some of the same characteristics that they liked in Cam Newton and Tom Brady and everything like that. Plus I think he plays a style of football that fits their team. He's a pocket passer who only runs when he has to. And added to that, played in Billy O'Brien's offense and is going to have some knowledge of the terminology and going forward from there too. So I would think that as long as Bill feels like he can pull it off and not get ripped off with the trades and things like that, I would think the player of Deshaun Watson, they would love him, and especially the way Deshaun Watson's played against them.
And he'd be negotiating with Nick Caserio.
Oh, all right.
His former lieutenant, to get the deal done.
Whoa.
That'd be something if they tried to pull that off. And see, the thing is, Caserio knows exactly what Bill Belichick thinks of Deshaun Watson,
right,
how he would value him, what he would think he's worth, and if there is any possibility there, if there is interest there, and the Texans decide to make that move, and Watson would play for the Patriots, that would be an easy negotiation, assuming that there is a level of interest by Bill Belichick, and assuming that Belichick cracked the vault open just a little bit for Caserio to know what he thinks of Deshaun Watson. There's a damn good chance nobody other than Bill Belichick knows what he thinks of Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, yes, you're right. There is probably a good chance. I would imagine, though, the fact that they've had to play them over the last few years, that those feelings have come out while they're sitting in staff meetings and Bill's breaking down the Houston Texans offense to where, he brings up the problems, the quarterback, the challenges he brings to their defense and everything like that. And then you start to realize, whoa, Bill thinks a lot of this guy because we got some planning and all of that. So I would think most of those guys there know how he feels about a Deshaun Watson. But, I really, that is certainly one that I've thought about. I sit here and think about the Bears Would they make that type of play? I mean, that's another team they had a chance back in that draft as well to take him, didn't do that. That would be something else. I just think there's going to be a lot of teams very intrigued because the guy is well-liked, let alone the player is well-liked, and he's got a lot of years left in his career, and I just think that's going to be all positives as far as people wanting him.
Let me throw a flag
Yeah.
out here that it bears repeating. We brought it up with Jalen Ramsey. I know I brought it up with Jalen Ramsey. And the extent to which Deshaun Watson has become so disenchanted with the Texans that he wants out. Do you have a fear, if you're his next team, that that's going to get turned on you at some point?
I don't think so. I think people will be able to look at this for what it is and realize if I was a quarterback of that team, I'd be pretty pissed off and have an issue here too. And we've had this discussion, right, Mike? I mean, all these coaches, they always start from ground zero when they get a new player. They evaluate it for what it is, and they always think, hey, I can make it work, and I'll make this guy work in our building and our culture and all that. I don't think he's got enough, bad things or any bad things in his history to make an organization worried about that aspect. I don't.
All right, let's try then to narrow the list. We've begun the process. I'm going to look at the grid that Pete has been maintaining while we've had the conversation. Let's get a final list of the teams that we think should be at the table, could be at the table, and or would be at the table if this trade happens and if there is an auction for the balance of the Deshaun Watson contract. Dolphins, no-brainer. They're at the top.
Right.
Do we put the Patriots at the table? It sounds like a yes.
I think so, yes.
Okay, the Jets, no.
I don't think so. I don't think he's going to sign off on that, and I would tell the Jets why. Well, I mean, why? So you can be 4-12 with Deshaun Watson? I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. I would say no.
Pittsburgh Steelers, yes, with the caveat that Ben Roethlisberger would have to not return. And
right.
Obviously, you're not going to trade for Deshaun Watson if he's coming back. He's got a $41 million cap number if he plays for you, Roethlisberger, that is, in 2021. Colts, yes, even though we don't think the Texans would send him there. They're good fodder to drive up the price elsewhere. Jaguars, are we yes or no on the Jaguars? I'm leaning no.
Yeah, I mean, I want to lean no too because I don't know if he'd buy into that. I know they have the number 1 pick in Trevor Lawrence, which will be, appetizing to the Texans, but yeah, I think I'm with you there. I want to say no because I just don't know if Deshaun Watson would sign off on that right now.
It's great watching Pete's cursor fly around on this page.
He's doing good, though.
Share.
Thanks, Pete.
We haven't thrown him many curveballs yet, though. The Las Vegas Raiders, yes or no?
Well, I think they're a team that, listen, Derek Carr's good. You can really win. He's right on the edge of a top 10 quarterback in football, for me at least. But Deshaun Watson's a top 5 quarterback in football. I would think about it and call and see what it takes. I don't think that's that crazy.
Chris, I want to go ahead and plant a flag on a concept here that may become very real if this trade is going to happen. It may take a 3-team trade to get this done.
Right.
Because you're going to have a team that's got a quarterback that doesn't need that quarterback, but the Texans say, no, I don't want that quarterback.
Right.
So instead of 3 first-round picks, maybe it's 2 first-round picks, and the third one gets sent to – 2 first-round picks, your quarterback gets sent to another team, and that team sends
the other
first-round
pick to Texans. Right.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. I don't think that's a crazy thought there. The magnitude of this deal, I mean, again, we're expecting the richest trade haul ever, right? I think. I mean, at least in modern history for Deshaun Watson.
No, Mike Lynn's not the general manager of any of the teams that would be trading for Deshaun Watson, so it's not going to surpass the Herschel Walker debacle from 1989.
No, I'm talking about modern history, though. We're going to see bigger trade than Jalen Ramsey, Khalil Mack, and any of those guys who got 2 first rounds, right? So, but okay. All right, so let's keep cracking away here. We hit Vegas. We hit Denver. We're going to say yes to. Right.
So we're putting Denver in the yes. The yeses are growing here. All right, and that's just the AFC.
Right.
All right, let's look at the NFC then. We've got the East. Washington, would he want to play in Washington given where the team currently is? Great defensive line, right? The weapons may not be where they need to be. You have to give up draft picks to get him, so that impairs your ability to make the team better. Would he want Washington?
I got to say that's a close one. There's some positives there. Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, that offensive line. I'm going to say yes for right now. I think it at least makes him think. I don't think it's one when they call, he just goes, no way am I going there. At least he's going to think about it.
Giants with Daniel Jones and Joe Judge and, a team that was sub 500 but was still in the playoff mix until the last week of the season.
The Giants are a tough one just because, hey, there is the Gettleman aspect of this whole thing. I think the Giants we'd certainly dabble in this. I just don't imagine the Giants being in this kind of conversation for a trade, just knowing and living the Giants' life my whole life. I don't imagine that, but I don't think it's a thing he would say no to. I don't. And I think they're a team that's, close to turning it around. I don't think they're that far off.
Too many hog mollies would be sacrificed via those draft picks. I'm thinking Dave Gettleman's going to want the lottery tickets and try to improve the team elsewhere than go all in for a quarterback. I think he's going to be too conservative.
No.
So we'll put them there a no.
All right.
The Dallas Cowboys, they got a weird spot. $37 million if they tag Dak Prescott. You get they're all in with Dak. They're not going back there. The Eagles, they got enough of a mess now with Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. He doesn't want that. It's the NFC equivalent of the Texans right now. Different reasons, but you don't want to step into that.
Right.
All right, Bears, are the Bears a yes?
I think so. I mean,
agree.
Right? I mean, again, they're another team that we've talked about. They're closer to the top than the bottom. Defense is good. If they could re-sign Allen Robinson, you got the Mooney kid and Anthony Miller and some tight ends. I think that's a yes.
All right, how about the Minnesota Vikings? A three-way trade sending Kirk Cousins to your buddy Kyle Shanahan and the Vikings picking up Deshaun Watson.
Well, that's funny. And, Jimmy Garoppolo could go to Houston with Nick Caserio. I mean, who knows what the hell could happen. That's something I was just going to bring up. But yeah, okay, yes. Let's say yes. Minnesota, I don't think he would say no to that, definitely. At least he thinks about it.
The Detroit Lions.
That might be one he might say no to right now. Yeah.
I agree with you. Saints, I'm putting the Saints in a no because the Saints aren't going to want to give up the draft pick capital to get him. It's going to be too expensive, and they have other needs that they need to address, although Watson may want to play there. How about the Buccaneers? I mean, Tom Brady's coming back next year, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they can flirt with that yet. I'm surprised you say no to the Saints so quickly. Just, like... How do we...
I think Sean Payton is confident he can find the quarterback that he needs without having to give up that much to get him.
That's the point, Mike. You're exactly right. That's exactly right. All right, Carolina.
I say yes on Carolina, right? He may not. I don't know. You got Christian McCaffrey. You got some
weapons,
underrated receivers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. I would think he'd look at that and go, wait, I could come in there and be the next Superman, and we might be able to do something there. I think that would be a yes.
We said no to the Falcons because of the cap realities, disengaging from Matt Ryan, and then bringing in Deshaun Watson. The Seattle Seahawks, we said no. Cardinals, we said no because of their quarterbacks. That brings us down to the Rams and the 49ers. Rams can't do it because of Goff.
They don't have any first-round. Do they have any first-round picks left?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they can't mortgage their future.
Right.
It's already been mortgaged, and they've screwed up their cap situation with all these big contracts they've given out that have blown up in their faces. Rams, don't even entertain the thought it can't happen. What about your 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, a straight-up Garoppolo for Watson trade, plus more, obviously, coming from the 49ers to the Texans?
49ers are one of those teams that I would throw right on there and then go, yes, sir, no doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, just, again, they're one of the teams like we talked about at the top of the segment where I just go, they're set up to win. Yeah, they were injured this year, but the team is still damn good. They're kind of ready right now. They're in their window for Super Bowl appearances and wins and all of those type of things to where, if I'm them or if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm definitely thinking yes or thinking about that for sure.
Does Kyle Shanahan want a guy who
That's a good question.
Is not going to be as wedded to running the offense the way that he wants it to be run? I mean, he had a chance to draft Watson or Mahomes in 2017, but these guys don't fit the, I'm going to design the offense. It's going to work. We're not going to improvise. We're going to do it this way. Watson doesn't really fit that.
I think Watson can fit that, though. Again, we talked about, like, he is a drop-back quarterback. He wants to play within the pocket and dice you up with his arm. He's not looking to just, like, get the ball, let me look at the rush and run around and just try to make backyard plays. I think, again, I don't know the answer to this. I don't know. Because you're right, Kyle has a history of wanting those kind of just, like, robot quarterbacks. I told you to do this and do that. But I would also think Kyle is being as smart as he is and knowing that, like, first off, Deshaun Watson wants to do what's right. He wants to listen to his coach and do everything you tell him to do. And, I would think between the Super Bowl last year and some of the quarterbacks he saw this year that he might go, you know what, my offense is good and I can coach the hell out of things, but damn, I'd like to have one of these guys that can just bail me out of jail every now and then when things aren't good. I would like to think that. So I think it could work, Mike. I really think Kyle could make that work.
Texans and all general managers out there, we have done the work for you. We expect no compensation in exchange for it. We've narrowed the universe to the Dolphins, Patriots, Steelers, Colts. I thought we crossed off the Jaguars. Jaguars are off.
They did.
The Raiders, the Broncos, Washington, the Bears, the Vikings, the Panthers, the 49ers.
I think so.
That's the
I
list.
think those are realistic to where.
Those are the possible destinations.
Right. I think so. And I think they're realistically places that, Deshaun Watson's not just going to say no right away if he really does want out of Houston. He'll think about it. And so I like that list. This was a good exercise. I've been wondering about this, and I think this is going to be something to watch here.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.